campaign. This is intended to be an open dialogue today. So please, as you have questions, as you have comments, hop into the chat box and just share what you're thinking, and we will address those throughout the presentation. To kick us off, we want to know a little bit more about our audience. So you'll see a poll pop up here in a moment. And what we want to know from you is what hat or which role are you representing today? Are you an individual community member? Are you representing a community organization? Are you representing a workplace? Are you a mental health or behavioral health provider? So take just a moment and tell us a little bit more about you. We'll give it about 2 more minutes for folks to get in there. Okay, it looks like we have a really good amount of you voting. Looks like we have about 47% based from community organizations, about 22% related to workplaces as workplace representatives, about 13% as individual community members, and 18% as mental behavioral health service providers. So thank you very much. That tells us a lot about who is with us today and how we can make the most of our time together. The second question we want to know, because this is such an important issue that we just share across the border between Nebraska and Iowa and across the 4 counties that we're partnering with, which county are you representing today? We do have some national partners on the line, so you probably won't have a way to vote here, but for the rest of our folks, please vote specifically the county or counties that you're representing today. And I'll just give 1 more minute for folks to vote in the poll. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and close polling. It looks like we have about 57% of individuals from Douglas County. We have 23% of attendees today representing Sarpy County. We have 7% of attendees representing Cass County. And let's see, 17% representing Pottawatomie County and 32% of individuals who are representing the entire metro area. So those would be organizations or partners who would be serving the entire catchment area. Great. Well, we have a wonderful group here with us today, and let's dive in. So I want to tell you a little bit about what we're going to accomplish today. After the introductions, we're going to dive into the campaign overview, and then at the very end, again, we're going to circle back on how you can get involved. So before we dive in, I want to tell you a little bit more about the Wellbeing Partners. We are 7 months young, so if you want to click to the next slide. And we are honored to serve as the catalyst for this campaign. Our main role is to serve as a local collective impact expert to make sure that this campaign meets the needs of our employer stakeholders, our community stakeholders, and individual community members as well. We're passionate about normalizing mental health because it lies at the root of health and well-being. And because it's an issue that both employers and individuals really have in common, and we heard that loud and clear over the last 1.5 years of listening to our community members. Together, the Wellbeing Partners will build well-being into the way communities grow and do business. That's our mission. And together, we are bridge builders, we're technical assistance experts, we're teachers and champions for well-being in all of the spaces that we interact with on a daily basis. Go ahead and go to the next slide. We would not be where we are today in this launch without these incredible partners. And I just want to lift them up and just give them all the kudos that we can. These entities have been walking with us for a very long time, and in particular, partnering with us over the past 2 years to shift how we do public health in this region. And so we decided to move from assessing health needs together to addressing them together with one shared need. And so I just want to thank Douglas County Health Department, Sarpy Cass Health Department, Pottawatomie County Health Department, MAPA, and UNMC College of Public Health. We also want to thank the generous funding from the Sherwood Foundation, CHI Health, Mutual of Omaha Foundation, Region 6. All of these individuals and the generous contributions have made this work possible. And so we're just honored to be able to do work at this level and be able to measure the impact. Actually, if you could go back one slide, Sheila, if that's okay. So I am honored to have a very special guest with us here today. I'm going to turn it over to Kristen Williams, MSW MPA, and she's the Director of Community Initiatives with the Sherwood Foundation, a generous contributor to this campaign. Kristen.
Thanks, Sarah. Welcome, everybody. It's so fun to see so many familiar faces out there that are here to learn about this really exciting work. I have to say, it's really just an honor to be here. There's a little bit of divine intervention, I think, on this, because when Sarah first brought us this proposal, it was a little hard to wrap our minds around. And so it took us a lot of time. And then we funded it right before all the things happened with the pandemic. And I felt like what a gift that was, that we could kind of get out in front with this evidence-based campaign and give folks some tools to use to share with their employees, to share with the community, to really work to reduce the stigma around mental health. So we have been a pretty decent investor, I think, in mental health. In fact, I see lots of our partners here on this call, everything from propping up a mental health system for youth through the school systems with connections at Project Harmony, to we just recently funded the new psych unit at Nebraska Medicine. So we're always open to this. I'm proud that the Sherwood Foundation invests in mental health and well-being. We know it's at the root and center of a healthy, vibrant community for people to get mental health services and physical health services that they need. Thank you to the other funding partners. It's always good to have a blend of both government and private funds. And we really are excited to see this project launch and to begin sharing stories that have shaped us into who we are. So thanks again, and I hope this goes really well for everybody today.
Thank you, Kristen. Appreciate you being here and for saying a few words. Now I'm honored to basically introduce and turn the mic over to our national partner, Public Good Projects. So Public Good Projects is a nonprofit organization that offers a unique and evidence-based combination of marketing and public health expertise. They're national experts on mental health, stigma reduction, and behavior change campaigns. And we're honored to collaborate with them on this work and learn from all the work they've done across the country. Together, our goal as a region is to reduce mental health stigma in Cass, Douglas, Potawatomi, and Sarpy counties by 10%. Now, without further delay, I want to introduce our valued colleague and national expert, Dr. Joe Smizer. He serves as CEO of the Public Good Project, and Joe has a PhD and master's in public health and an emphasis in health communication. He completed his postdoc at CDC and has designed many of the nation's most influential behavior change campaigns. We're honored to work with Joe and an incredible PGP team. So I'll turn it over to you, Joe.
Hi, thank you. Can you hear me okay?
We can.
Okay, great. Well, it is very nice to be here with you all today. Let me fix my webcam a little bit there. Just to echo what Sarah said, we were really excited when we met TWP early on, and all the conversations that we've had with many of you on the phone today, or I should say on our Zoom call today, further made us excited. I think the 4 counties involved, all of the local partners involved, you just know your communities and the people that you serve so well. And there's so much coordination going on locally, and there's so much passion and concern about mental health. And that is, I can say from experience, not always true in some of the places PGP has worked in the past. Sometimes we have to work really hard with one community partner who cares a whole lot to get all the other community partners on board and at the same level of concern. But That is certainly not the case with you. And our job really is, as Sarah said, we're a public health nonprofit, and we operate in the background. So most people in the 4 counties that are going to be touched by this campaign will never get to know PGP and will never know we exist. And that's intentional. That's on purpose. Our whole job in this effort is to empower the individuals who live in the communities served by this campaign, and to empower the community-based organizations that are on this call, that know the community well, that know the population served well, and that know mental health well. And that's how we work. That's really the whole role of PGP, and everything that we do, we're in the background using a collective impact model, which just means that we are often in the role of a technical assistance provider and one of the organizations that helps create the strategy and the structure for a program or a campaign. And then we operate in the background throughout the course of that campaign. We've been around since 2013. And we've, like Sarah said, we've done quite a few large-scale public health programs. But I have to say, this is one of the ones that I've been most excited about during my tenure here at PGP. And I am just very excited that today is launch day, and it's now real. So you can go ahead and go to the next slide, I think, slide 7. So without further ado, just to dig into a little bit more about the strategy. That collective impact point that I made earlier is really, really important. So unlike a campaign that maybe would be created in a more traditional sense to educate the public about mental health or mental health stigma, and that maybe would be created by a marketing or an advertising firm, this is a public health intervention first and foremost. So the people who are running it and who are designing it are public health practitioners, mental health practitioners, people that know this field very well. And that's how we're evaluating the campaign as well. The campaign is being evaluated on, do validated measures of mental health stigma, which are being measured by peer-reviewed academic measures of stigma. These aren't measures that we came up with ourselves. These are measures that mental health experts and researchers say are the things you should measure when you're measuring mental health stigma. That's going to be what we use to determine how effective this campaign is. And it's also what we're using to determine the messages and the approaches that the campaign is using. So while that sounds very academic and maybe very technical, and for those of you who would like to learn more, we have a lot of documentation we can provide you with. We're happy to do that. What members of the public are going to see is deceptively simple. Like I said before, our role is really to be in the background. And what I mean by that is working with you all and working with TWP and our other close stakeholders. Our job is to surface stories, surface individuals who have lived experiences with mental health, and to help people in the 4 counties served by the campaign to begin to see and understand and believe that people who live with mental health conditions are our friends and our neighbors and our coworkers, that they are just like everybody else, and that a mental health condition doesn't define who a person is. It's just one more thing about them. And there's a lot of science that goes into how you do that, and a lot of science that goes into the messaging and the approaches. The other part of the strategy is, so that's what's called a contact-based approach. In public health, that's a contact-based approach where one person who lives with a condition is shown to another person who doesn't live with a condition, and you emphasize how they are one and the same. They're both members of the same community. Then there's an education-based approach, and that is, again, deceptively simple. It's finding out a way for people who don't know a lot about mental health, but they're open to it, to expose them to information about mental health. And the trick there is, how do you find a way to do that where they're receptive to getting more and more information and they're not turned off by it? It doesn't become burdensome or boring or dull to receive this educational information about mental health. So that's a challenge, and we're going to show you what we came up with to get around that challenge, to get over it. And then just the last part is supporting local community-based organizations, and that's the most important part of the whole thing. So relying on you all on the phone today to help get those stories, to find those individuals who have powerful stories, personal experiences, to share them with the people you know the best and you reach the best. And then for you to tell us what you need to support your existing programs and for us to give that to you. Free of charge. It's just part of the campaign. It's part of the strategy of the campaign. And our role at PGP, working very closely with TWP, is to take what you tell us and then to go into the workshop, put it together for you, and then give it back to you quickly and done well, and in a way that you can use in whatever way you tell us you're going to. So to follow your lead. And so much about this program is following the lead of people who live with a mental health condition, and people who work in mental health and who work in the community and know what they're talking about. So this is the opposite of us helicoptering in and creating a shiny, glitzy mental health campaign. It's really from roots up. I think you can move to the next slide. So yeah, without further ado, it's like I mentioned, it's really a three-part strategy. It's a three-pronged strategy, and so education-based is where we're starting, and that's what I mentioned. That's getting people basic information about mental health, finding a vehicle to do that in a way that they keep coming back for more. And those of you who've worked in mental health, I'm sure you're nodding and you're going, well, that's not the easiest thing in the world to do. But we think we cracked that nut. We think we have a solution there, and it's spokesable. It's pairing people's own pets and animals that they submit to the campaign with a simple mental health fact that's delivered not by a person in this case, but by the pet or the animal. And if you're coming from a marketing background, for example, you already know, or if you're just online or you use social media, you already know that pets are really one of the most popular things out there in social media and on the internet and in real life. Every coffee shop has a wall dedicated to the pets of the people who go to that coffee shop. So all this is just sort of acknowledging the fact that pets and animals have power, and then pairing a person's pet that they give us with, like I said, just a very simple, easy to understand fact about mental health, and doing that every day over the course of months and months, seeing a new pet every day with a new fact every day. And in our experience in a mental health campaign that we run in parallel to this, it works really well. And you're going to see some of these pets and some of these animals shortly on the next slide. The next part is what makes us. So this is, as the name implies, it's what makes us the same. It's what makes us community, and that's really about so much more than mental health. But it's also about acknowledging mental health. And so this campaign is the person telling their own experience. Hi, my name is, I live with this mental health condition, and let me tell you more about me and what makes me a person, a human being. And just showing people those stories and those people repeatedly over and over again, and showing the people that are local, that they could meet on the street or in church, or at their job, at the gas station, at the grocery store, just real people who live locally in the 4 counties that the campaign is serving, being brave and sharing who they are, and hopefully that bravery is infectious and gets people to understand mental health a little bit better, and the people who live with mental health conditions a little bit better, and to stop thinking it as something that another has, and to start thinking of it as just another reflection of health. And what we have seen in our previous efforts is that actually does reduce stigma. It's the humanization of mental health. And you don't need glitzy commercials or anything else to do it. You just need real people sharing their real stories. And then lastly, the community partners, which I've already touched on, but which again, if I had to choose one thing that is the most important thing, it would be community partners. I think we can go to the next slide. So here we've got Spokesimals. You can see there's a perspective here. It maybe doesn't look like your traditional public health campaign, but that is intentional. So Spokesimals is, like I said, always adorable, whether they are furry or scaly, pets and animals that people who live in the 4 counties the campaign is serving give to the campaign. So behind the scenes, what we're doing is when someone submits a photo or a video of their pet, we take it and maybe we do a little bit of editing, but usually these photos or videos require almost no editing at all because pets are adorable. And the person tells us the animal's name, a little bit about the animal, and then that's it. It's really simple. And then we take that and we attach a mental health fact to it. So you can find it. The website's up right now. It's spokesimalmidwest.com and Spokesimal's Midwest if you're finding it on social media. And if you don't like it already, I think you'll come to like it because no one can resist adorable puppies and kittens and bearded dragons and llamas and horses. It's a flood of adorableness. I think we can go to the next slide here. Okay, so these aren't samples actually. These are Spokesimals that have already been submitted by people who live in the 4 counties already to the campaign. And because these are incredibly important spokespeople for mental health, Spokesimals for mental health, you're looking at Cody, Persephone, Rory, and Smokey at the top. Maximus, Luna, Crystal, and Chloe in the middle, and Husker, Koshka, and Buddha on the bottom. All equally important, all equally important to mental health as well. And that's what you'll see. You'll see just pictures and videos just like these. And I should mention, any animal or pet is acceptable. So it doesn't matter if you have a tiny rodent or a huge horse or an elephant or whatever animal you have in your life that's important to you, or a cow. You can submit it to the campaign. Tell us a little bit about your friend, and then we'll take it from there. And we always tag the person who gave us the pet. So we give you an opportunity to get that shout out from the campaign, to maybe reshare it on your own accounts if you'd like. And this is what it looks like. So this is a real Spokesimal from where this campaign is, and her name is Gold Key, and this is just an example of what this actually looks like. So this is some sample text. This is exactly what it would look like if you follow the campaign on social media, and you can see Fred's at home is the human being who submitted one of their best friends, Gold Key. And so you can see it's just some very simple information about Gold Key. We try and keep it light and cute. And then there's a simple mental health fact at the end. And I think what makes this work is a new pet every day and a new fact every day. So it's about consistency, and it's about people following the campaign and sharing the campaign. We're having lawn signs and stickers, bumper stickers or stickers you can place anywhere that go along with this campaign. So you can see that's what they'll look like. These are available. TWP is of course being local, the organization that has these stickers and these lawn signs. We're hoping that they're very popular. And I know my staff wants them. So if they're any indication, and these we hope basically just extends the reach of the campaign and encourages people to follow the campaign, either whether through the website or social media, but just gets in a very simple, easy, friendly way, gets information out about mental health that maybe is for the person who isn't quite ready to follow a campaign that has a lot of testimonials or personal stories, but that it's an easy entree into learning about mental health. And by the way, you can order those if you go to the website. So if you go to the Spokesymbols website, there's an ability there to ask for a bumper sticker or a lawn sign. So please do. Next is what makes us. So what makes us is our second campaign in this three-parter strategy. And as I mentioned, this is the contact-based campaign. So this is one person seeing another person, and their similarity and their shared humanity being emphasized rather than what makes them different or their mental health condition. Thank you. We can go ahead and move on to the next. This is what that campaign will look like if you follow it on social media or on the website. And just like with Spokesymbols, these are real people. So these are people who have already submitted themselves and their story to What Makes Us. You can find them on whatmakesus.com or on the social media channels for the campaign. And like we say, by sharing your story, you show that what makes us is so much more than whether or not we live with a mental health condition. So what's important here is we don't try and minimize the fact that an individual lives with a mental health condition. What we're trying to do here is show that, it's really common. A lot of people live with mental health conditions. It's who you see every day. It's your boss, it's your coworker, your friend, your neighbor, and it doesn't make that person any less than anybody else. In fact, it is often a source of strength and insight for that person. And that's really the point of this campaign, is to show that. And all of these people will be local, as I already said. And like you can see here, we're not spending, we're not going to a Hollywood production studio and making fancy commercials here. We're just actually showing real people with real stories. And we think that if we do that and we do it enough, that people will respond. And again, that's called a contact-based strategy in public health. And I know I just said we don't have fancy videos, but of course we're going to have a couple. So it's not what we're relying on, but you have to have it. You have to have a couple of fancy videos. So what's next is just what makes us. I would call this an introductory video. So it kind of explains the point of the campaign, and what you'll see this sort of throughout the campaign is occasionally you'll see a video, and we thought today might be a good time to show you the introductory video. So we can go ahead and play that now.
So this is Sarah. I'm going to hop on while we're having some technical difficulties. And just, I think this is a good time to pop into some of the questions that are being posted. a really great conversation in the chat. So just to make good use of the time. So Kiana King, you had a couple of great questions. One was around examples of national behavioral health campaigns that Public Good Projects has been a part of in the past. We had referenced the fact that you all have been part of large-scale campaigns. Could you speak to a couple of those?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. I don't want to detract from today's topic, though, and the reason why we're all here, which for me is most important. But yeah, we designed the CDC's national opioid prevention campaign for the opioid crisis. We've done some pretty famous public health documentaries, a television series about the National Institutes of Health, for example. We have campaigns on low birth weight, reducing low birth weight babies. We have campaigns on sexual and reproductive health for young women. We have campaigns on tobacco control in several states. We have another mental health stigma reduction campaign that's active across 8 states and the District of Columbia. And I think what makes these campaigns interesting, if you're from a public health background or maybe a program background, is that they're, like I mentioned earlier, these aren't media campaigns per se. We use communication and media, but there's always local partners, there's always stakeholders, and it's always evaluated the way the CDC would evaluate a public health program. So our outcome metrics are not reach or impressions or shares or likes. They are public health outcomes. And we go through institutional review boards, and all of the campaigns are published in peer-reviewed scientific journals, public health journals. So if you're curious, I can actually send some of those papers out to this group, and you can learn more about how we've worked in the past and see some of the evaluations of our work. Thanks for the question.
Thanks. The next question, just so we're making use of our time, these are really great questions, are from the evaluation perspective. So was it taken into account? I'm actually going to go back so I don't do a terrible job at. Typically validated measures that are large scale are not always piloted with communities of color. Were you able to vet these measures of stigma to ensure that they are inclusive of communities of color? Great question.
Oh, that's a great question. Yeah. The measures that we use are, there's actually an advantage to working in mental health because the field is actually, in terms of an evidence base, pretty deep, deeper than other public health topics. For example, opioid use disorder, stigma around opioid use disorder is a much less researched field than stigma around mental health. So to answer your question, these measures have been around for quite a while. They're heavily researched and validated. There are definitely cultural nuances and racial and ethnic nuances to stigma in mental health, but those have been published on pretty extensively. And so what our role is in terms of an evaluation is to make sure that we're using measures that if you presented this as a paper, for example, to a conference of public health and mental health experts, they would go, yes, you've done this the right way. This is exactly how a mental health intervention should be measured. So we pull our measures directly from the peer-reviewed scientific base. We don't make up any of the measures ourselves, for example. And so some of them have been more validated than others in terms of different communities, but we are using at the moment the gold standard that any mental health researcher would use, and there are quite a few. There are quite a few measures. So it's dozens of measures, not just a few. So the evaluation surveys are fairly extensive, and how we will handle making sure that it's representative is we will do what you would expect us to do with this sort of evaluation, which would be oversampling. So weighting different individuals' responses differently and oversampling in certain populations as opposed to others to make sure that the evaluation is representative of the 4 counties that the campaign's in.
Thank you. We had another great question. We'll just take one more question, and then the video is working, so we can go back to that.
Oh, okay.
Will the campaign be available in other languages? I guess as the local collective impact partner, I'll address piece of that, and then Joe, I'll send it back to you. So we know that we are best when we're working through the various community organizations who are already serving stakeholders who speak different languages. And so absolutely, we will be working with, I'll just give you an example, the Refugee Empowerment Center. We know that they, through Amanda Kohler, their executive director, can take a statement or take an educative piece and then translate it into about 10 to 12 different languages. And so we have that built into the program that we will be providing some of these messages and funding the translation of those. So that way they can be distributed by community-based organizations. I think what we're still exploring is how much, as far as social media, do we need to explore within potentially Spanish and also the website. So we will get back to you on that. And definitely through community-based organizations, things will be available in various languages. Joe, anything else to add on that?
No, not too much, other than to say, again, our role here would be responding to what you all would tell us you need. So we're really relying on you to speak up. And if one of the organizations on the call today, for example, serves predominantly Spanish-speaking populations, and you tell us, we like your materials, we need these in Spanish, then we go, our job is to say, okay, and then we give you what you asked for. And that's really, that all starts today. So the more you tell us how to tailor materials, the more we'll do it. But yeah, to answer your question, definitely recognize it's important, and it'll be driven by what you ask for. But it will happen if you ask for it.
Great, and Sheena posted a few other questions that we'll get to towards the end of the presentation. So we will get to your questions and continue to post that great content. All right, back to the presentation.
Okay. Well, I'm glad it played. Obviously, the sound was a little clunky, but I hope you'll forgive us. I know we're all on basic. We're just Zooming all day, so I think we're all pretty used to. Sometimes it works perfectly, sometimes it doesn't. But here's an example that would be a very typical example. So this is a real person. Her name is Alex, as you can see. This is her actual story. So we didn't write this. This is something she wrote herself that she submitted to the campaign. And we wanted to put this up here because it's an example of what this would actually look like. So how it would work, and hopefully for the organizations on board today, when you see this, this will make you comfortable and excited with asking the people that you serve to share their stories. You would go to the website, and the website would ask you for some basic information. It asks you for your name. It asks you to submit a photo or a video. And then it asks you to, it gives you a prompt, what we call a prompt. And that is, we ask some questions. And the reason we ask those questions is to make sure that we're checking all of the boxes about what a contact-based approach is supposed to do, which again is supposed to emphasize not just that the person lives with a mental health condition, but also other things about the person as well. So we want to make sure that we get both sides of that. And then we thought this was a great example of somebody who really, thoughtfully went through and filled out the prompt. We've had other really great examples as well. We just wanted to showcase one. And really the campaign is only going to work if everybody across the entire region feels comfortable submitting their stories, no matter who they are, what they look like, what their background is, what their language is, what their age is. We just want everybody to feel comfortable. And it's not always the easiest thing. That's why this campaign exists, is there is stigma around mental health conditions. So our role here is to make a safe, warm, and welcoming environment through What Makes Us for people to gradually come to trust it as a source to share themselves and their personal experiences, and then through in so doing to expose more and more people across the 4 counties to those stories and to those people and to the humanization of mental health. And so that hopefully you'll see a lot more of this. You'll see a lot more of these stories going out every single day. And then finally, just another note about the collective impact. So what this tangibly means for the organizations on our call today is we're hoping you can help us understand who you serve. You can tell us what your priorities are and what your programs are, what you're currently doing related to mental health, and in your experience, what has worked well and what hasn't worked well. And we can take those learnings from you, and we can make sure that the campaigns reflect those learnings. That we don't make mistakes. That we move forward, and we avoid all the trials and the pitfalls that your hard work has taught you about already. And then also that we would ask that you help us collect stories. Nobody knows who you serve better than you. And this campaign really only works if people are constantly sharing themselves with the community, with the campaign. So any help you can offer in putting the word out that we're looking for stories and people to share themselves is going to be extraordinarily helpful, and will definitely go a long way to making sure that the campaign is successful. A contact-based campaign only works if there's contact. And by sharing those stories. So, for example, if a person that you serve submits their story, our plan, and again, this is all part of that collective impact model, is to share all those materials back with you so that you can share them through your own channels, in your own means, however it is that you reach the populations that you serve and the communities that you serve. And then again, that content co-creation. So you telling us, I run a clinic. I could really use a poster that had this in it, or I really could use an informational video about this aspect of mental health, or whatever it is that you already need. Or I really like this piece of content that you all created. Can you give that to me in Spanish? Then that's our role here as well. Not just to ask you to share what we're making, the stories that people are submitting, and not just to ask you to help us get those stories, but to give you those direct requests that you've made to TWP that will get to us.
Thank you, Joe. Hello, everyone. Sheena Helgenberger here, Community Health and Wellbeing Director with the Wellbeing Partners. Great conversation so far about ideas that we will take into consideration. And it's an open feedback process. But if you would like to be additionally involved, I wanted to talk about working groups today. We value collaboration and feedback during this campaign. So if you would like to participate in a working group, we have 4 different topic areas. So community partner organizations, think about helping us bring this campaign to those you serve alongside, helping us ensure all populations feel welcome and inclusive in sharing their story. Workplaces, so think about the employees that you could involve in the conversation to create a culture of sharing all of the things that make you who you are. We also have a mental health advisory group. So these are people in direct service provider positions in mental and behavioral health that will help us apply different teachings and perspectives, such as being trauma informed, to this campaign. And also very important is community members. So as an individual in this region who may or may not have a mental health condition, but agree it's important, helping us shape things, and again, finding people in the community to be a part of this and share their story. So the plan is that each working group would meet only once a month for about an hour throughout the campaign, and attend as you can, to give input on things like our campaign materials, survey questions, workplace policies, and practice suggestions, and then help us recruit more people to submit testimonials and photos. So if you'd like to join, there is a survey at the end where you can identify that, or you can reach out to us at info@wellbeingpartners.org. Next slide, please. So again, we'll get to questions right after this slide, but wanted to highlight the ways that we need and want you to be involved in this campaign. So anyone, even you as a representative from your organization, can participate as an individual. Submit a photo of your pet to help us pair that with educational messages about mental health. Share your own story with mental health or supporting and loving someone with a mental health condition. And community partners, as we've mentioned before, we'd love for you to reach out to us, let us know how campaign materials could be suited for your needs, whether that's languages, different representation, anything that you would need. Our goal with PGP is to find a way to meet that need with the bigger picture of reducing mental health stigma. And then finally, there are some other opportunities to help pass out campaign swag along the way. So I'd love to know, as everyone reflects on these opportunities, what next step is most exciting to you? And Sheila will be launching a poll for us, so if you don't mind sharing, I'll give you all a second to do that. I will keep making your choice if you haven't submitted yet, but it's great to see really lots of different aspects of the campaign that appeal to you, which is great. You can kind of pick and choose the adventure with the thought of then thinking about the clients you serve, the families you work for, your colleagues and staff members, how they could get involved as well. So thanks for voting if you have that chance. I'd now love to try and field a few of the questions now while we're here, and then also we will provide a recap and answer questions that we might run out of time answering today, because it really is important to us to have you feel very confident moving forward. So as I look back on some of the earlier questions we haven't gotten to yet, someone asked about plans to get testimonials from each racial and ethnic group. And then someone also said, how important it is to see someone like them that has a mental illness or mental health condition, and different lived experiences represented. So PGP, feel free to jump in, but I think this is where our collective efforts with all of our community-based organizations, workplaces, and other partners becomes very important, because we need each of us to help spread the campaign and invite people to participate so that there is a great representation of the wonderful diversity in our region. So we need your help to do that. And we agree it's very important. We did talk about languages. So again, reach out to us with specific languages. We do have great Spanish speaking expertise on staff and connections made to refugee languages. So again, let us know what else might be missing. A question for PGP on any large public health research that you've been involved in. I know you mentioned some of the campaigns, but could you elaborate on any public health research?
Yeah, happy to. So I think I mentioned earlier that all of our programs go through a peer review process. So we can definitely send along those studies of our work. That's an easy one. In terms of other research, we also do what I would call white papers. So these are papers that are produced that need to be released to the public faster than what a traditional peer-reviewed process allows. So these would not be full evaluations of a program per se, but they would be things that our work has uncovered that we're trying to alert public health organizations to. So we do both those kinds of work. At any given time, there's 5 to 6 peer-reviewed scientific publications from our programs being under review in a different process of publication in a top-tier public health journal. And then these white papers are also being constantly put together. And it depends on the topic. So we do a lot of research around mental health. Some of that is funded by Kaiser Permanente. And then we do, because we don't have a program that doesn't involve research, internally we have an entire research department. So these are people with PhDs and masters in public health who traditionally have a academic background. They're academic researchers, and this is what they do all day, every day. So we are not a marketing agency. We have people who have expertise in media and content creation and marketing on staff, and that's its own department. But there is an equally staffed research department that are just public health researchers, and they work in close collaboration each day. We also have some partnerships with some university partners when we don't have the capacity to do an evaluation, or when it's best if we have an external reviewer, for example, look at our data and cross-check it for validation purposes. So we're pretty heavy in the research space, much more than, at least in my experience, it is typical in a program like this, in an organization that runs behavior change campaigns.
Great, thank you. There are so many good questions from Sarah Miller and Donna Polk and others. So what we will do is work on answering those briefly and send them out as part of our recap. So a recording of this event, next steps, Q&A will be sent out in post-event communication. We also have a survey that's going to be linked here in the chat box. So if you would just be willing to share some initial thoughts, that will also help us move forward in a collective way. We really thank you all for attending and thinking through all of these aspects that are going to be important to address to make this successful. It's really only together that we can support our community in talking about mental health and utilizing the trust and expertise of partners like yourself. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much.
Take care and stay tuned.